Hey, Demonic Pacts is right around the corner. Now, I know I've been getting a lot of comments asking me what my league plan is, what my relic choices are going to be, what regions am I picking, how am I going to kind of plan out my task and kind of go from, the start to the end game. How am I going to progress my gear and my combat masteries or demonic packs, right? And so I have a lot of these questions kind of being asked in comments. So I figured I'd put together a quick tentative plan so you can kind of watch this on the weekend. Not 100% sure if I'll have time to get another finalized plan video in depth before league launch, just because I'll be working up until league launch. And so I want to just kind of put this out there and kind of share what I've been thinking and what I've been planning. One quick plug, I'm almost at 500 subscribers, so if you wouldn't mind hitting the subscribe button below, that'd be great. Today's video is going to be a little bit more disorganized than normal, just because I've been spending whatever time I had kind of organizing this, getting information put together, and so we're just going to kind of have a more of a podcast kind of talk and walk through. So let's get into it. All right, so for my relics, I'm charting with Endless Harvest. I think it's going to be one of the best relics for me in the way I play. I'm going to have a lot of AFK time, so I'm going to try to just use that to max out the skills and getting like the 50 mil for all the harvesting skills. That will pair nicely with Hot Foot because I'll be able to make the smithing bars early on in addition to cooking all the fish. So I'll kind of get maximized kind of AFK play there. In addition to that, agility is a pretty painful skill to 99 and get to 50 mil. And so I think selecting Hot Foot here will allow me to do that. Now, I'm not 100% sold on whether or not I'm going to go for, Dragon tier or not. I'll kind of just see how much fun I'm having. And as long as I'm having fun, I'll keep playing. I do believe that this, selection of relics and these choices will allow me to get to 50 mil all and easily Dragon Trophy. This is by no means going to be a strategy to get max points, but I do want the option to go for Dragon Trophy if I choose to keep playing for the league for that long. I know last league I did stop early because I wanted to test out a different build, and so I think I got to like 55k points, and I was like happy with that. And I could have just spent more time and gotten the Dragon Trophy, but I'd rather have just focus on the fun, and I went and made a second build. So anyways, getting back to it. So yeah, Endless Harvest and Hot Foot is going to round out a lot of good skills, and especially in the early game, just getting a little bit of cooked food as well as smithing bars and getting that passive smithing XP early on. I know I'll fix it a lot later on, but it's nice to get that going. I can also kind of, smash the bars into knives, and I don't have like an early money maker that like Abundance would kind of fix, and so I'm not going to be able to buy like, knives myself, and instead I'll just be able to kind of smith my knives for early range training, which is kind of nice. In addition to getting the Hot Foot and getting agility experience, this will pair very nicely with the Map of Alacrity because I'm going to be able to get those early agility levels. I'm going to be able to use the map and hopefully use a lot of the agility shortcuts that are available, and so I think it's going to be an overall good combination. Moving into tier 4, now I know I reviewed Butler's Bell, and I was overall kind of leaning towards the Clue Relic. Jagex did say in all of the conversations that they were going to have fewer clue tasks. Now I know collection log is still an important item, and I still believe that this build and this kind of configuration will still allow me to get close to that 750, if not kind of push over that 750 score required for the collection log. And so I think I can do it without the clues, and so I'm going to just pass on the clue relic, though I do think it is important, especially if you're going to rush Dragon Trophy. I think the clue one solves a lot of that collection log. It can also help you get a lot of decent gear from clues that can kind of help round out your build early on as well. So definitely a good option if you're considering that. I'm finalized and leaning towards transmutation. There's a couple things here you'll see later on that in my builds I will need Wrath Runes for magic. Now I will get that when I'm able to craft them myself with Kandarin. However, until I get there, I think Transmutation is just going to be a really nice early play. Transmutation will also help fix some of the early money making that I'm missing. The Agility course will be nice to kind of make some money, but I think Transmutation will push that money over the edge. In addition to that, I will also be able to fix my herbs. At tier 5, I'm going to take Larcenist, okay? And Larcenist will allow me to pickpocket Master Farmers for seeds, and then I can use Transmutation to convert them to whatever seeds of whatever level I need. I am passing on Nature's Accord, and so I do need a kind of good way to fix my seeds and herb lore for both farming and Herblore, and so I will need to I think that combination will work well. And so I think transmutation overall kind of just rounds out a lot of good things. You can also adjust all of your logs in order to kind of get the construction logs that you need to finish out construction. So I think that's pretty good. After Larcenist, I'm going to go into Culling Spree. I think this is the only Slayer fixing relic. Slayer is really important to me for my regions as well. I also don't really need Grimoire because I'll have access to all of the prayers, and I don't really need Ancients for my builds. And I think Eternal Sustenance is good, but I think I'm just going to kind of pass overall because I really do need that Slayer buff early on. And then at tier 7, I'm going to go into Reloaded. Reloaded, I'm going to go back into Soul Harvest. I think Flow State is kind of cool, but I think I've already kind of covered a lot of my skills, and I'm not rushing Dragon Trophy or max points. I think Flow State is really powerful for that, but I think for everyone else, Reloaded into whatever relic you're missing is going to be the best. For me, I think Soul Harvest pretty much gives me the fix for prayer, and it gives me the fix for rune crafting, two skills that are generally sometimes painful to train. Just depends on like what other relics and things we have, and in this league we just don't have anything else and for rune crafting, and so I think Soul Harvest is going to be great. And then Minion is going to be my tier 8 solve. I think it's just overall continuous DPS is slightly better than Flask of Fervor, and also the auto looting is just kind of really nice quality of life. Now, they haven't revealed the last tier 8 relic. If that's a really juicy banger, I probably will pick that one. Just depends on what comes up over there. So yeah, let's just talk quickly about the skills. Strength, attack, defense, range, and hit points. Pretty much just hit stuff and train those up. Those will be non-challenge to get to 99 and even to 50 mil XP. We have the Gemstone Crab. If we need to, we can just AFK there for a long period of time. Magic, I will use Transmutation to get my early levels kind of going. There is a caveat there. I might just do some little early on magic training just so I can use the magic to kill some monsters for some quests. I'll explain that in a bit later on. However, I think magic, transmutation, and then again, just hit stuff. Even without Ancients, you should easily be able to hit 50 mil. And this will probably be my 200 mil XP since I'm primarily going to go mage builds. Prayer is easily fixed with Soul Harvest, as I mentioned, and so is rune crafting, right? Construction, again, transmute your logs and then just build stuff in your house. Agility is going to be fixed by Hotfoot, going to be able to speed up all those agility courses and everything. Herblore is going to be fixed with transmutation, pickpocketing those farmers and seeds, right? Thieving is going to be fixed purely by Larcenist, easy 200 mil, no problem there. Crafting is going to be fixed with Tirannwn and Larcenist. Larcenist allows us to steal those crystal seeds, and then you can break those down and then make crystal tools, or crystal shields and halberds, and just do that for massive amounts of both crafting and smithing experience. Fletching is already a fast and relatively easy skill if you have some money. I'm just going to fletch broad arrows and veiled totems, which are available to us in Varlamore. Pretty straightforward. No need for relic fixes there. Just kind of a passive skill. You'll eventually get to 99, and if you keep working at it, you can get to 50 mil. Slayer is going to be fixed by Culling Spree, like I mentioned. Hunter, this is an interesting one. So I'm not taking Woodsman. I think I'll just do Hunter like the regular way, just catching traps and doing the Hunter contracts. Hunter is already relatively a faster skill, at least in my opinion. It's faster than Agility, and Agility has the trade-off of, if I don't pick Hotfoot, I have to do like AFK barb fishing or something if I wanted to push for 50 mil and 99 Agility, and I think that's just kind of painful, and so I am going to prioritize Hotfoot. I think Hunter has this other cool benefit where with my region of Zeah, I'll be able to do aerial fishing, and now Endless Harvest doesn't allow you to continuously do it, but it will 2x the Hunter XP for that, and then that 2x is again multiplied by the 16x multiplier, so I think that'll be actually a really fast Hunter training method. There's probably going to be some tasks around there anyways, so I might as well go there. So that'll be nice, and maybe even just get some items for collection log as well. Right, mining is just simply fixed by Endless Harvest. Smithing, like I mentioned earlier, same as crafting. Fishing is also fixed by Endless Harvest, and so is cooking with Hotfoot and Endless Harvest combo. Fire making is fixed by Wintertot. Wintertot is crazy experience, and so you don't really need the Woodsman. Wintertot is going to have a bunch of tasks around it, getting the items and stuff like that will be part of the collection log as well. So I'm going to be spending the time in Wintertot. So pretty straightforward fire making. Wood cutting, like I said, AFK with Endless Harvest. Farming guild, transmutation, pickpocket seeds, and just doing the farm runs. Even if you were to pick Nature's Accord, you still have to go around doing all the farm runs. You will max out and you can run Tithe Farm and be crazy efficient. I think there's still going to be tasks around Tithe Farm and doing farming contracts, and so I'll probably just be doing those. And farming is a relatively easy skill to kind of passively train throughout the days and get it to 99 and 50 mil XP. So I think that kind of covers overall well-rounded build. Moving on to regions, I think my first region is going to be Kandarin. There is a caveat here. I'll explain that later. Moving on to Tirannwn and then to Zeya. I think this is just going to be some new regions that I haven't used in the past leagues, so it'll be a lot of fun to explore. I never got to fight Echo Hunlif as well, and so that'll be exciting. And same as Echo Thermi. I also haven't done a lot of Chambers of Xeric, so that'll be fun to kind of learn and explore that. All right, some caveats. So there's a couple things here. I want to talk about tasks. If you go onto the wiki page, you can go look at the Raging Echo tasks. In here, you can kind of just sort by requirements. Right now, I'm filtering by just Karamja and Varlamore. I'm going to scroll down here and show you that there's only 2 agility kind of tasks listed here. Don't let this fool you. There are a few tasks around the Brimhaven Agility Arena, such as getting your Pirate's Hook, Snapdragon, Brimhaven Agility Ticket. So they are kind of part of the agility, but there's very few of these agility tasks. Now, the main thing I wanted to point out here is there are a lot of hunter tasks. If you're watching any other content creators, they've been really kind of explaining that this is a lot of points here. And by taking Woodsman, you're going to be able to complete a lot of these, right? Now, these are just the ones in Varlamore and in Karamja. There probably are other ones additionally in the general section. Now, we don't have the task list spoiled by Jagex just yet. But if this balance continues to stay the same of the number of hunter, tasks versus the number of agility tasks, there is a chance that I, change my plan from Hotfoot to Woodsman just because it's going to be an early fix. And then the only other way I can really fix agility is I can just ultra AFK barb fishing at the end to kind of solve for that. We'll see, and also remember, in order to get Dragon Trophy, you don't need to kind of finish all the tasks. So maybe getting 50 mil in agility and 50 mil all is something I can skip, and then I can skip this and I can still hit Dragon Trophy, right? It still depends. I think overall this is faster for the 50 mil experience, and then I think Woodsman is definitely the early on play. Just based off the sheer number of tasks that you see here, right? And so just kind of keep that in mind. That is one big caveat to my plan. In addition to that, like I mentioned, if tier 8 is another juicy relic more powerful than Minion, there's a chance I might pick that as well. But as of now, I think Minion is going to be kind of fun with the auto looting as well. Okay, region order. So there is a possibility I go Tirannwn first and do low-level G and CG. Now, I'm not super experienced expert at CG, so I do make mistakes on my click accuracy. And that the biggest issue here is really not the stats, but it's really the low hit points. You make one mistake and you're pretty much going to get killed. If I do this and I struggle, I probably have to go to Crab, get some more hit points, and then come back and then keep fighting at it, which is kind of why I'm leaning towards Kandarin first, do other level training and stuff, and then come back and then pick Tirannwn later. The biggest issue is that I'll have to respec or just put a bunch of stats into melee, and I'll explain that in a second when I go into my build setup. But that is one thing that's kind of another option that I might switch to Tirannwn first. Also, Gauntlet also gives a good amount of money. Tirannwn has the main problem that a lot of the tasks and skills and things there are higher level. If you know in the main game, you have to complete Song of the Elves first, and then once you complete Song of the Elves, then you go there, which is pretty much means you have base level 70s. If I pick Tirannwn first, I definitely won't be anywhere near base 70s. However, if I pick it second, I'm much more likely to be a lot closer. So that's a couple of things. There might be other things that I change as well. I don't think too much will change between the T8 relic and the task list being spoiled, aside from the things that I've called out here. And so you can expect potentially these things as an option that if you're considering what to do with your plan. So yeah, let's keep moving on. So Kandarin, I want to do a big call out that if I pick Kandarin first, there is the fight arena quest that is not auto-completed. So this is actually a ton of attack experience. Don't forget, at level 3, you get the 1.5 additional combat XP multiplier in addition to the 8x that you already have. So that's a 12x multiplier. So fight arena in Kandarin is going to be a really nice boost to your attack levels. In addition to that, you have the Myths Guild, where it actually has a lot of good gear. So you have the Mythical Cape, which is nice, and you also have the Dragon Battle Axe, Dagger, Mace, and Longsword. This is where like the melee build with blind bag will be really good because you'll be able to kind of buy these items. Everything except for the dagger is a heavy item, and then you'll be able to use these dragon items in your blind bag, even if you don't have level 60 attack after fight arena at this point, right? In addition to that, you get night waves. So again, night waves require you to have a melee setup to fight them and no prayer involved. And so in order to do this kind of mini quest to unlock piety, you do want a melee setup, which is again why I'm kind of leaning towards melee. And then also at this point at the tier 3 relic, you also get the passive for the Slayer bonuses. This is where I want to start maybe doing some Slayer, and that'll be nice. And one last call out that I want to call out is you have the Wizard skill as well. So this is where you can buy the Mystic robe set and things like that. What's important here is, there's no other good early mage gear pretty much up until you get Mystics. And so Kandarin does unlock that, which is nice. You do need the magic levels as well, but you can stick around, do all these things, get close to your tier 4, turn on transmutation, get the experience, and then get into the wizard skill. 60 shouldn't take you that far away. All right, I want to talk about gear, but first of all, as I progress through Kandarin, I've been doing some DPS checks in my builds, and so I did a couple loadouts. I tested out like magic setups early on, and then I also tested out some range setups early on. And one of the biggest issues is that early on in the game, there's not a lot of content that you can farm that's not moons, at least not in the regions that I'm picking. Kandarin is half or 80% blocked by Slayer for all the good stuff. And so I think moons is really the early farming setup that I want, right? And so in order to do moons, these bosses have really high defenses. You can see here Blue Moon has a 500 mage defense, and so having low accuracy here, or not in this setup, but if you had mage gear, your accuracy is really low, and you don't have a lot of combat points to really boost it up. And so as far as I could tell from my damage calculators, my DPS and accuracy was really struggling, and I was seeing the same issue with range. And so I finalized and ended up at this melee setup here. It's pretty straightforward. This is 7 points. You should easily be able to unlock these tasks. This is kind of a lot of the basic early tasks you want to kind of complete across the general regions as well as Karamja. Doing those will kind of get you enough points, at least 7 points, to unlock this kind of heavy blind bag setup here, right? And then this should be enough to kind of get you going to kill some monsters that are a little bit more powerful and be more efficient and fast with it, right? Another thing I want to call out is if you were doing Woodsman and doing the Hunter Relic, you would actually have a really easy early access to the mixed hide setups, right? Now, this is a really small strength bonus here. It is nice for like the hybrid strength and range bonus. And if you were to, do a strength and range hybrid setup, you can get like the Hunter crossbow and do that as well. But just putting it together in the stats here, you can see loadout 1, I just have the adamant stuff. And then you have the mixed hide setup here, and I don't even have a boot slot here set up. Everything else is the same. Right now I've just set like base 60 stats in both of these configurations. And fighting the Blue Moon boss, right? I do have a couple of blind bag items that I mentioned, right? You can get these pretty early on in the shops, no problem. These are from the Myths Guilds. This one you can buy in Varlamore, I believe. And so just doing that. If you look at the DPS here, it's extremely comparable. I'm actually not sure. There's a little bit more accuracy coming out of the setup here from loadout 1 to loadout 2. And so I think that accuracy is actually what's skewing the data to actually buff the adamant setup. And so, without the need for getting the mixed hide gear, I found even a less need to kind of go hunter early on. I will do anything hunter requirement as for early easy tasks, and I know that might be a little bit challenging with all you woodsmen out there trying to kind of complete all of your tasks, and you guys get priority for all the hunter traps. But we'll see. I think that's a risk I'm willing to take just to fix agility later on in the game, and I'm hoping I can do some other tasks and other components while you guys are doing that, and I can focus hopefully more on some more agility tasks if Jagex decides to balance that out a little bit. Okay, so yeah, I just want to make that call out here. So I think this is probably the highest early on setup, and with that setup, you're going to be able to kind of do some Slayer, kill some monsters, unlock the Glacial Tomatli, the Sulfur Blades, and the Earthbound Tech Paddles. These all require level 48 Slayer, which is why I'm kind of pushing Slayer at tier 3. Doing that will kind of get me these 3 items, and all 3 of these items will work great going into moons, right? And so going into moons, this is what I kind of predict to be my moon setup here. Overall, it's going to do pretty good damage with the blind bag triggers, and you should be able to kind of power through all the moons and hopefully get out some better gear. And then move on to Moxy, and then from Moxy move on to Echo Moxy. The Echo Moxy is going to be nice because going on from here to here, you might get the more dual wielding the Moxy Echo weapons, and then you can just put all of these into your blind bag setup as well, and it's just going to be even more power to add to your builds. Cleaning up and going through Moxy, you can kind of just finish out the blind bag setup here, maybe take this node for range echo hits, right? Not too much investment here, but overall, I think this is going to be pretty powerful as a path, going to Kandarin, coming back to Varlamore, doing this, and then moving on to Tirannwn. Once I get to Tirannwn, I get Zalcano, and then I also get G and CG and then Echo CG. My biggest issue when it comes to this one, though, is looking at the DPS here. You're going to have this issue where I go into these nodes here, but then for CG, I really want this 1-tick powered staff node, and so all these nodes kind of become wasted coming into here. You don't get any benefits for blind bag if you get the Halley inside Gauntlet, and so most of these are kind of useless except for the accuracy node here, and so it's just something to kind of keep in mind. This will add an increased damage benefit and stuff like that, but again, most of this is not going to be so useful. You're really going to benefit from this 1-tick kind of mage setup here. And so that's kind of my plan going to Tirannwn. I haven't really planned anything further because remember, this is enough to get me through day 1 and day 2. A lot of things might change with the last few spoilers, and we're just going to kind of have to feel things out as we get into Zaya and the last relics. And so talking about the endgame setup here, I think Foes put out a great video talking about these 2 builds, so I won't go into them in too much depth. I'll put a link in my description to his video, which has been great. These builds have been kind of shared around the Discord, and the discussions have been happening quite a lot. I think these nodes are pretty much the best ones to go for. The damage is really, really powerful. So I pretty much have 2 options. My one option is going to be the Prayer Mage. This one, if you go over here, you'll see that this has one of the highest DPS builds in the game, just because of how it interacts with all the prayer setup, right? You set up 8 prayers here, and then you have your max pray and mage gear set up here, and then you use the nodes here, and you turn on all your prayers, and you pretty much try to go for 100% max hit chance against all the monsters, and you also buff up your max hit all the way up to 103. And so this is actually pretty absolutely insane DPS. And this is set against Thermi. Again, you're going to be able to fight anything with an elemental weakness with really, really high damage because your quadrant is going to take the priority of whatever element that they're weak to. In addition to that, Delve's element is going to add an additional 30% weakness to it. So it's going to be really, really powerful. I think this is going to be one of the highest DPS mage setups you can get in the game. And so I think that is one option that I have. Now this is, obviously if you're a little bit, newer to the game, or you're like me and you're not an expert at all the end game bosses just because you don't do too much end game PvE, PVM content. Then the secondary build, which is the Water Thorns Mage setup, is going to be really nice. Remember, in the Prayer Mage setup, you can cast manually the water spells, and then you can use that to overheal. You still get all the overhealing nodes, which is going to be really powerful, so you can use that to kind of overheal. This is the tree here. I kind of took out a couple nodes in the Water Mage setup just because to be a little bit more fair. I removed some of the nodes here just to be like, hey, you know, in case you can't get the 40 out of 40 for whatever reason, this is going to be good. I actually think this is going to be like my first endgame tree. And if you watched my video talking about the tree analysis and explaining it, I kind of told you that I was keeping like one tree setup kind of in the back burner and not planning on using it just in case, you know, after I do this, I do get the 40 out of 40 and I do want to go to the full, you know, crazy DPS route. In that case, I will have an extra tree that I didn't plan on using and use that to kind of spec into here and see how this goes. Overall, I think that the Water Mage Thorn Tank is going to be one of the better builds just because it's a little bit more defensive, right? The other build, you have to actively plan on using your water spells to kind of be more defensive. In here, you're going to reduce a lot of damage taken by being defensive and reflecting it back. You add this in addition to the minion that's also doing damage. You don't have to do as much damage yourself, and you're going to have way more survivability because you're always going to be healing and overhealed all the way up to 188 if possible. And so I think overall, this is going to be like my second to last endgame setup. And if this is so good and I can AFK a ton of content, I'll just stick to this. If I do, you know, at the end get all the gear that I want for this max Prey Mage setup, I will switch to this. I think this one just requires a little bit more gear, right? Because you want all the Sunfire gear as well as the Echo Boots and stuff like that. This one, you don't have to max out so much, even with the Ancestral top and bottom. Like worst case scenario, you could be in Mystics until you farm all of these pieces because you're just focusing on magic kind of accuracy in your gear. And so overall, I think those are some two really good endgame setups for my regions, Kandarin, Tirannwn, and Zaya. I'm kind of curious if you're going to be picking these regions and what your builds are. I did see some cool like spec builds with D-Claws and crystal armor and stuff like that. So if you want to share your builds, definitely leave them in the comments below. I'll definitely check them out and see if they're viable. Maybe I might switch up my plans. Hey, anyways, thanks so much for watching. As I mentioned, reaching up close to 500 subscribers. It'd be really cool to kind of hit that before League launch. That would be a really nice milestone. If you found this video helpful, definitely leave a like. Any feedback about your builds or why I should change my build or why my build is good, just leave some comments below. I'll try my best to read all of them and respond to them. Thanks for watching.